It's gonna be this man's a liar.
If you watch the first video, psych.
Hi guys, and welcome back to another Overthrow Disc Golf video. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today we have the second part of our forehand series. If you have not seen the first, then click here.
Ooh, that's good.
Today we're joined back again with Josh. Yay! Let's just take inventory here and see what we're working with today. Yeah. So let's go through. We might have to do a little touch up here. So what I want you to do is get to where you're here and just get this nice rotation that we had earlier. Right now you're kind of stopping a little, yeah, you're kind of stopping a little short with your upper body and collapsing in. So just go through this a few times, get this nice little move, and then when you're ready, just give it a little go.
Oh, bless me.
That's it.
Bless my face.
Yep, I'm gonna come all the way through. Remember, your hit's gonna be about here. That's better. Yeah, still a little bit of wobble, but
Yeah.
that's basically it. You're kind of too focused out there, right? And you need to stay inside this moment a little bit longer, right? If you pull up and you're worried about seeing where the disc goes, then you're gonna pull this shot up. Stay focused on this moment right here and get the hit there.
I got you.
And then you can keep your head down and track later. I'm a little bit torn. Today my goal was to focus on, was that a bug? My goal today was to focus on incorporating footwork to the upper body, but I'm thinking with Josh it might be beneficial just to spend some time smoothing out the upper body. There's some feelings and some things that I lied to you guys about that it's worth, I think, taking the time to unpack those a little bit more before we get into the footwork. So the original plan today was to have you start with your footwork and start concentrating on the footwork, but I need to address the fluidity of the upper body. In the first video, I had you guys working with an active wrist, okay? Had you load the wrist. If you check out Eagle, he's back like this with a loaded wrist, all right? I think 4 or 5 years from now, people aren't gonna start with the loaded wrist, but they'll let it get there. For the backhand, you use a passive wrist. For the forehand, I said that you use an active wrist. And then I talked about kind of snapping here. Now, that's half true. Actually, it's mostly a lie. Okay, so I had you using the hammer because what happens is a lot of people, they take this wrist joint here and then they lock it up. And so what happens is you end up going through, and when you lock this joint up, you end up pushing the disc forward. Right, and so it's much more of a push motion. So what I did with the hammer was, since the hammer is very heavy, it forces your wrist to lay back, right? And then I had you spin the hammer, in which case you might have actively been doing this. Now this motion in and of itself is quite slow if you're trying to do it on your own. Here's the catch. So the wrist in the forehand is actually also passive. It just looks and feels more active. So what actually happens is when you start rotating the upper body, the disc is gonna stay behind. And then once you start rotating, it's like we're pulling the disc forward. Once my shoulder flexibility is gone and I've met the range of that motion, then my elbow is gonna start coming forward. Once my elbow gets tucked here, then my wrist is gonna start coming forward. And then at the very end, once I get to the hit, the disc is going to snap forward, but not because I went like this, but because the rest of my arm slowed down. And since I was loose, the disc caught up at that moment. It's less of a push motion with the disc. We're pulling with the rest of our body, and the disc is trying to stay behind. It's lagging behind. I'm gonna use disc lag a lot, like racket lag in tennis. And the disc lags behind, and then at the very last second, it catches up and it's gone. To illustrate this, get into your stance, get a solid grip on it, and get the disc back here where it would be. Now I want you guys to watch closely. As he goes to rotate forward, I want you to rotate forward like you're gonna pull, and I'm gonna put some resistance here. This is what you want. Pull the elbow tight. You see this, how the disc is behind the wrist, is behind the elbow, is behind the shoulder, is behind the front shoulder. This is the disc lagging behind. And this is what you want. This gives us that whip effect, because then as he comes here, the elbow is gonna stop, and now the wrist is gonna continue to go. Then once he gets here, since the elbow stopped and the forearm is gonna slow down here, now the disc is gonna wanna go forward there. And that's what actually happens. That is disc lag, and that is the single biggest indicator of how far you can throw, is how long you can lag that disc behind you and how quickly it goes from lag to in front. That's why Eagle throws further than most people, because he has a huge lag between his elbow and his disc, and then it catches up very quickly. Today we're just gonna try to smooth out the upper body, getting more of this pull motion and keeping the hand in front, and we're just gonna see where we get. So again, just on that pull analogy, go ahead and get through your throw and do this rotation here with the disc lagging behind. I'd like for you to do this. I'd like for you to go here and just try to visualize the pull and let the disc stay behind the rest of your arm. Yeah, let it stay behind. And you can go up to the hit as well. Yep, and whenever you got it, you can release. Sick. Oh, nice. I wish you guys saw that. Go ahead and pull it back. And I'm gonna give you a little resistance here. Just want you to feel that it's staying back. Solid. So we're just gonna go through a few here now and make sure that he's getting this feeling. You could also go slow-mo for those of you at home, if you don't have somebody back here holding the disc and feeling this pull. Yeah, so you want to basically keep that palm in front as long as possible until you just feel like, okay, it cannot stay in front. So disregard our difference in the length of our reach backs here. As our elbows both drop in the slot, your wrist is way above your elbow, right? And that's why you end up releasing those up.
Gotcha.
And with some flutter, because as it comes out here, boom. See the disc angle, right? Versus where if you look on the right side of the screen where I'm at, I let the disc and wrist drop down on line with my elbow to get a nice level release here. All right, so we're gonna work on that.
Gotcha.
So a few upper body timing things that we gotta work on here is in your standstill, so get in your ready position here. We're gonna get this elbow more out away from the body here.
Okay.
Creating space. He is dropping his left arm early and it's opening up just a bit prematurely. So we're gonna keep this here, I'm gonna keep the elbow here. From here, just slowly taking back and keeping the disc down here, the wrist down with or even below the elbow a little bit. Yep, that's it, that's exactly it. What you're doing looks great. Better.
That was my bad.
It's okay. You really wanted to crank on it. You went, and then there was like an extra, like you were getting ready, just like, I'm just gonna shred this one.
500.
That's it. Yeah, and even if you let that disc kind of swing low, that's fine too.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, flatter.
Power.
If I were staring right at the camera, it would be here, where it's almost 90. That way I can rotate. It's here I get a little too close, that thing out. All right, solid.
It's taking freaking forever.
Good, on both counts. So this video we've talked about so far, being loose in the upper body. I've troubleshot a couple things to get that. I think this is super important before we move forward into the legs and stuff, that you have that. So I'm gonna recap and then I'm gonna give next steps here. As he works on this feel. He's getting them flat now. So same thing, elbow up, troubleshooting that, letting this disc lag behind, right, and making sure that the wrist and the elbow get in line here. Now the next thing after that is you've already got this kind of uptake, which happens. So right now I'm having him go here and just pull back with the wrist and the elbow level. So you can get a nice flat release with that. If you've already got this position, which you saw in our side-by-sides earlier, where we both have the disc up here, that's fine. The next step for that is after you're getting these released flat is to add, but where this elbow gets away from the body and the disc can be up here. You see some people come into it like this, and you've got the Avery and Paul. The disc is up, the elbow is away. You've got some people get into it just sideways, and it's a sideways loop. The disc is up, the elbow is away. You've got some people that come straight back into it like this. Disc is up, elbow is away. As long as you got those two things, it's acceptable, right? The disc is not back. You don't really want it down here because your arm's gonna straighten out too much. So the next step after you're getting this flat release is to get the disc back in this position. And then from here, when you drop this elbow into the slot here, and I'm calling this the slot where the elbow comes in more so towards the side, not behind the body, but in more so towards the side. When the elbow drops into the slot, your wrist and your elbow need to be flat. If the elbow's up here, to get the disc flat, you're gonna have to do this with your wrist, and you're gonna have this weird angle between your bicep and your forearm in here. Ultimate players are the worst about this because they have to change angle very quickly with their wrist. But you want it dropping in here, bicep to forearm, 90 degrees, flat between your elbow and your wrist, and that's gonna give you that flat release. Here, elbow drops in the slot, now you've got it here. That's the next step to work on before we see you guys in the next video where we start adding footwork. Hopefully by then, you'll have a smooth upper body and we'll just be able to tack the footwork underneath it. So we are going to practice those things until we see you next time. Thanks so much for tuning in. We will see you on the next video. Peace out, Girl Scout.